Hello and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode, I will be talking about the city of Oxford. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm that medic couch potato. I make videos on things I find interest. I started this series, which is called the History Musing series, last year, so December 2022, to talk about the history of the cities that I visited so far in the UK, and I thought I'll do like a street view using Google Maps as well to show you some of the popular places in different cities, towns and villages that I've been in the UK. So today's episode will be on the city of Oxford, so let's get started. So here you can see a map of Oxford. If I zoom out here, here is the map of the UK, and the red pin is where Oxford is. Now, if you're watching this on my podcast channels, I suggest you move to YouTube to see this, see these videos. Purely because, I think you can just hear the audio on my podcast platforms, but not the videos. So I would suggest to watch my videos from now on YouTube, simply because you can see the image, the video better. So if I was to zoom in where the red pen is, you'll see where Oxford is, and it's relatively southeast of England. So it is the county town and only city of Oxfordshire. So county town means it's the most important town or city in a county. County is just a geographical region of a country that's used for administrative purposes. Another name for county could be state or province or voivodeship, for those based in Poland. But there's like other, obviously more terms for that depending on where you're from in the world. So Oxfordshire is the county, and Oxford happens to be the main city and only city of Oxfordshire. It has a population of around 162,000 people. That's as of 2021 census. Obviously, it is a lot more now. It is 56 miles, so 90 kilometers northwest of London. So here's London and here's Oxford. Oxford is around 64 miles, so 103 kilometers southeast of Birmingham. So Birmingham's here. Oxford there. Speaking of Birmingham, do check out my last video, which was on the city of Birmingham. It's a very big city in the Midlands, and a nice place to visit and to study in as well. Oxford's also 61 kilometers, so around 61 miles, around 98 kilometers northeast of Bristol. Oxford is actually home to the popular University of Oxford, which is the oldest university in the English-speaking world, and I believe the second oldest, definitely in Europe anyway. It has buildings in every style of English architecture since the late Anglo-Saxon period. So aside from education, popular industries in Oxford include motor manufacturing, publishing, information technology, and science. So I'm going to be explaining a bit about the history of Oxford before we go into the street view. So the history of Oxford in England dates back to the original settlement in the Saxon period. Just a brief introduction about the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons are also called the Saxons. They are pretty much dominating England from the 5th to the 11th centuries. So that's from the end of the Roman Britain until the Norman conquest in 1066. So the Romans were people from ancient, Italy. They're like the ancient inhabitants there. And the Norman conquest, the Normans were from Normandy in France, and they were led by the Duke of Normandy at that time, who later became known as William the Conqueror. He was the king of England after the Roman conquest in 1066. So they came after the Anglo-Saxons. So between the 5th and the 11th centuries, there was a lot of Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and in 927 that those kingdoms were united as the Kingdom of England by King Athelstan. So yeah, so the Anglo-Saxons pretty much migrated to England from mainland northwestern Europe after the Roman Empire left Britain at the beginning of the 5th century. And you know, they had many kingdoms like I mentioned, so some of the popular ones were Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, Essex, Kent, Sussex and Wessex, and these kingdoms still play a big part in giving their names to the like provinces, or like the area, big areas of the UK, of England, sorry. So Mercia actually ended up being in the regions now we call the Midlands, and Wessex, I believe it's the area around south of England. So do correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Northumbria, you see it in the north. It's like between like the north of England, east of England and Scotland border. And then East Anglia is here around Norwich area. Essex is kind of like north of London, so like around Chelmsford, Colchester. And then there's also Kent, which is around like the Canterbury, Maidstone area, Margate, Dover. And then Sussex will be on the south coast of the island of Great Britain. Kind of around this area, and then Wessex would have been more towards like Bath and Bristol, and then Mercia would, like I said, the Midlands. So yeah, I believe Northumbria also came kind of down to Sheffield as well, not just in the northeast. So that was just a bit about the Anglo-Saxons. Do check them out in your own time online. There's a lot of fascinating information about them there. So Oxford's actually on a very strategic position. So if you've ever been to the UK, specifically to London, you would have heard about the River Thames. So that's this big river that actually runs through London. It feeds off from the North Sea, and it pretty much snakes around England, and it snakes around London rather, and divides London into North London and South London. It goes past quite a lot of like important places. So like Hampton Court Palace, for example, a very nice looking building. And it pretty much goes through other areas around, like London as well, and eventually kind of makes his way through the North Wessex Downs area of national beauty. So there's a national park, as well as the Chitterne Hills, and eventually it does actually go into Thames as well. So by the time it gets to Thames, it's a bit of a smaller river than what it was at the start of London. So River Thames is actually the longest river in England. So the length is around 215 miles, so around 346 kilometers. It's the longest river entirely in England, but it's the second longest in the United Kingdom after the River Severn. And in Oxford, it pretty much goes through as the River Thames, but it does actually divide into the River Cherwell at the junction where the boathouse for the university is situated. So you can actually, if you do get a chance to go there, you can visit it. So this is the River Thames that's going through here. So quite a wide river, as you can see, and the river that's just going through here is the River Cherwell, and that's the tributary river of the River Thames. And this here is the boathouse, which I believe is used by the university for rowing practices and competitions. And you can actually use the rivers now to travel from Oxford to London for the network of Thames rivers. Some people travel on these narrow boats, which is pretty much a house on a boat. And they're quite narrow, hence why they're called narrow boat. And you can, you have your own kitchen, bathroom, bedrooms, etc. on there. And you can use them to go other places as well, not just from Oxford to London. So just an interesting idea if you want to do a river travel around England or the UK in general. So during the early Norman period, the town actually grew into national importance. Obviously, the river helped. And in the late 12th century, it actually became home to the University of Oxford, which pretty much rose to dominate the town. At one point, actually even now, Oxford was a heavily, I can't really say this word, so bear with me trying to pronounce this, ecclesiastical town, and it was greatly affected by the changes of the English Reformation. So the English Reformation was basically a religious and political movement that happened in 16th century England, when the Church of England broke away from the authority of the Pope and the Catholic Church. This was widespread across Western and then Central Europe, and it affected the practice of Christianity as well. So basically what happened was King Henry VIII, he wanted to divorce his first wife at that time, Catherine of Aragon. She and him had been married for some 20 years, and they've only had one living heir, Queen Mary, who later became Queen Mary I of England. Unfortunately for Henry, he wasn't happy with having a female child. He wanted a male heir, and he ended up marrying 6 times, which produced 3 heirs, one of them who was a boy. So Henry VIII, he divorced his wife, and in the process of doing so, he split away from the Catholic Church. Divorcing his first wife, because he divorced another wife as well. And initially the Pope refused to give that the blessing for the divorce. And Henry was obviously infuriated, and he spurred by the religious movement founded by Martin Luther in 1520, Henry VIII decided to act upon those ideas and split from the church, the Catholic Church. Martin Luther was a German priest who was one of the main figures of the Protestant Reformation, and his followers became known as the Lutherans, and that branch of Christianity still exists to this day. So that was when the English Reformation happened, and Oxford actually emerged as the seat of the bishopric. So that's the Diocese of Church. So a Church of England diocese, and also emerged as a fully fledged city during the English Reformation time. Just another fact, in the UK, to be considered a city, one must have a cathedral and a royal charter from the monarch to become a city. I don't know if the cathedral is a must, but I think it is one of the city. But definitely the royal charter from the monarch at that time is required for a town to become city. And during the English Civil War, so that was the Civil War between 1642 and 1651, this is actually a serious civil war between the parliamentarians, nicknamed the Roundheads, and between them and the royalists led by King Charles I, called Cavaliers. And these wars came about because of England's governance and issues with religious freedom. And the war ended with the parliamentarian victory at the Battle of Worcester on 3rd of September 1651. And it also saw the end of King Charles I, who was executed, and I think he was the last king to be executed and his sons were exiled. Later on, his sons were welcomed back to the UK, specifically Charles II, who later became king, because the citizens of England at that time were quite unhappy with the rule of Oliver Cromwell, who was a Puritan. So yeah. So, during the time of the Civil War period, Oxford actually happened to house the court of Charles I and pretty much stood at the heart of national affairs. So the city began to grow even more so industrially during the 19th century, and there was an industrial boom in the early 20th century, especially with regards to major printing and car manufacturing industries. However, this started to decline in the 1970s and 80s along with other British heavy industry. But by that point, Oxford University had been dominating the scene for many, many years. So Oxford, even then was known for its university. Yeah. So in terms of car production, so Oxford was the center of importance for motor manufacturing since one of the companies, Motor Morris, established their plant in the city in 1910. They were the principal production for Mini cars, which has been owned by BMW since 2000. The plant it saw quite a lot of turbulent years, British Leyland in the 1970s, and was also threatened with closure in the early 90s. And it has also produced cars under the Rover and Austin brands, following the demise of the Morris brand in 1984. Yeah. In regards to publishing, Oxford University Press is a department of the University of Oxford, and it's based in the city. No longer it has no running paper mill and printing house. So it dates back to 1480s, actually, the printing history dates, and it was the Oxford University Press was granted the legal right to print books by degree in 1586, and it's the second oldest university press after Cambridge University Press. And they primarily focus on publishing academic journals, dictionaries. So you would have seen the Oxford dictionaries, the really thick, big dictionaries, and they also produce English language resources, bibliographies, books on Indology, music, classics, literature, history, as well as Bible and atlases. The city is also home to UK operations of Wiley, Blackwell, Elsevier, and several smaller publishing houses. Wiley Blackwell is known internationally as a scientific, technical, and medical publishing business. And Elsevier is also known academically as a publishing company that specializes in scientific, technical, and medical content. They're actually a Dutch company, but I believe they also have the operation is in Oxford for the UK branch. So the university as well, in terms of science and technology, has actually given quite a lot of rise to a lot of science and technology based businesses such as Oxford Instruments. For those who are maths, those who did like maths at school, so a lot of schools students have the instrument box that's owned by that company. This company also actually, Oxford Instruments is a pioneering company that actually had a role in developing magnetic resonance imaging, so MRI, and ended up providing the first superconducting magnets for this MRI. So pretty cool. And you also had research machines and so forth, so other science and tech companies that were based in Oxford. The university also established the ISIS Innovation in 1987 to promote technology transfer, with the Oxford Science Park being established in 1990, and the Begbrook Science Park being owned by the university as well. So quite a lot of like science and technology areas in the in Oxford. So obviously Oxford University pretty much dominates the educational sector of um, of the city. But you also have Oxford Brookes University, which is another university that's based in Oxford. Let me just see if I can do a street view of that. Obviously it's not as well known as Oxford University. However, you can apply to do a whole variety of courses that you can find on their website, and it's a pretty modern campus in comparison to what Oxford is. Oxford has. So do check out Oxford Brookes as well if you're happy to if you're considering studying in Oxford. So yeah. So Oxford is also a big hub for ESL education. So that's the EFL education. So that's the English as a foreign language or secondary language education. So during the summer, especially, you'll get a lot of students coming from abroad to spend a few weeks in Oxford to further their English education. When I went to visit Oxford in July 2018, the city was pretty much full of high school kids from different parts of the world who were here for a few weeks to improve their English. Also, the university has a lot of tourist attractions, as well as the institutions. The Sound Centre is also home to Carfax Tower, if I can find it here. So let me just do. So this is what Carfax Tower looks like. So initially it was called St Martin's Tower, but popularly called Carfax Tower. It's the remnants of a 12th century St Martin's Church, which is now owned by Oxford City Council, and it was the official city church of Oxford at one point, where the mayor and the corporation were expected to worship, and this was between 1122 and 1896. And then the main part of the church was then demolished to make more room for road traffics, and All Saints Church in the High Street became the city church for 75 years. And this particular tower is 74 feet or 23 meters tall, and now the city council stipulates that no building in central Oxford may be built higher than it. So this particular tower is a grade 2 listed building, and it still has a ring of 6 bells, and they are rung on special occasions by the Oxford Society of Oxford Society of Change Ringers. And you can actually climb to the top of the tower for a view of the skyline. It's open November to February from 10 till 3 p.m. March from 10 till 4 p.m, April to September 10 till 5 p.m, and October from 10 to 4 p.m. So I'll actually put all the links that I'm going to be mentioning in this video on the description channel, so do check them out as well when you're interested, especially since opening times might vary from time to time. So yeah, so there's obviously more to Oxford than just these historical buildings. For example, brewery as well is a big part of Oxford. Several of the colleges had private breweries. One of them was Brazen Horse, which survived until 1889. So there's still quite a lot of pubs and breweries that are in Oxford. However, since I I don't really know much about brewery. I'm not going to mention anything, but it's just to let you know that Oxford had quite a lot of big history of brewing as well. So yeah, do check them out if you're interested in alcohol. So now I'm going to mention a bit about the University of Oxford. The University of Oxford is actually a collegiate research university. So collegiate is a university basically which functions are divided between a central administration and a number of constituent colleges. And there's evidence of teaching in Oxford University as early as 1096, which makes it the world's oldest university in the English-speaking world, and then the world's second oldest university in continuous operation, the first being Bologna University in Italy. It grew rapidly, so Oxford University grew rapidly from 1167 when King Henry II banned students from attending the University of Paris, which is considered to be the second oldest university in Europe, as it was emerged around 1150. So after disputes between students and the local Oxford townsfolk in 1209, some of the academics fled northeast to Cambridge, where they established the University of Cambridge. Hence why University of Cambridge is the third oldest university, I think, in continuous operation in the world. Yep. And and when you hear people talk about Cambridge and Oxford, and they will use the word Oxbridge. So if you ever hear that, it just means Oxford and Cambridge being referred together jointly. So Oxford University has around 39 semi-autonomous constituent colleges, 5 permanent private halls, and a range of academic departments which are organized into 4 divisions. Correct me if I'm wrong about some of these stuff, because I'm not sure if it's if like the information will change when I publish this. These colleges are self-governing institutions in the university, and they all control their own membership and have their own internal structure and activities, and all the students are members of a college. So when you're applying for university in Oxford, specifically for medicine, since I'm doing medicine, this is something I know a bit about. When you're applying for medical school, for example, for Oxford University, you can choose to send an application for one of the colleges. So whichever one that you liked when you were going for an open day. I don't know if this applies to all courses. I feel like it should, or to whatever courses that the college offers, obviously. And then once you're applied to that college, you'll be called to do the various entrance tests and examinations that they have. If you don't know which college you want to choose because you like them all equally, then you can do an open application. I believe this is the same process for Cambridge as well. Just another heads up, I think for undergraduate studies you can't apply to both Oxford or Cambridge, you can only apply to either. But for postgraduate courses you can apply to either or both together if you wanted to. So that's just a heads up. This was true when I was applying for university. Again, do correct me if I'm wrong as well. No. So yeah, that's just about it. So since Oxford has a lot of colleges, it does not have a main campus, and the buildings and facilities are pretty much scattered throughout the city centre. You'll notice when you go during term time, during the semester time, a lot of students tend to cycle a lot, and it's like one of the signature things of Oxford, the cycling students. So Oxford has educated a wide range of notable alumni, including 30 Prime Ministers of the UK and many other heads of state and government around the world. As of October 2022, there's been around 73 Nobel Prize laureates, 4 field medalists, and 6 Turing Award winners who have studied, worked, or held visiting fellowships at Oxford. And the alumni of Oxford have won around 160 Olympic medals. Oxford also has a lot of scholarships, including the Popular Rhodes one, which is one of the oldest scholarship programs that allows international postgraduate students to study at the University of Oxford. And it was established in 1902 by Cecil John Rhodes, who wanted to promote unity among English-speaking nations. So yeah. So if you're thinking of applying for postgrad study, do look into the Rhodes Scholarship. You might be able to get it. So yeah, so that's just a brief info about the Oxford University. So I want to show you one of the popular university colleges, and that is Christ Church, which is right here. So Christ Church is actually a dual college and cathedral of the Anglican Diocese of Oxford, and it's actually pretty unique in the Church of England. So just a bit of information about the cathedral when I do find a picture. Here you go. The cathedral was originally the Church of St Friedward Priory, and the site was presumed to be the location of the nunnery founded by St Friedward, who was an English princess and abbess. And she's the patron saint of Oxford. You can find her shrine in the Latin chapel. And in 1522, so during the English Reformation, the priory was surrendered to Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, who selected as a site for his college. However, in 1529, it was taken over by King Henry VIII, and then became known as Christ Church College. There has been a choir at the cathedral since 1526. And Christ Church Cathedral is considered to be one of the smallest cathedrals in the Church of England. You don't think it's small when you are looking at it, but apparently it is. The nave, choir, main tower, and transepts are late Norman. So that's another thing about Oxford. It has a lot of historical buildings since the Saxon era. So parts of the church, where you can see in this picture, not very well possibly, visiting it in person makes sense, are late Norman. And there's also like a few different architectural features that range from the Norman times to the Perpendicular style. And it's actually popular for its music. For example, the organ is a 43 rank 4 manual and pedal instrument that was built in 1979. I'm not a musician, so I'm not quite sure what it meant by that, but it sounds pretty cool. And the main choir, the Christ Church Cathedral Choir, it consists of 12 adults, so 6 professional lay clerks and 6 student academical class, as well as 16 choristers. So the boys aged 7 to 13 from the Christ Church Cathedral School. At one point until 2019, the choir was all male, and they welcomed alto Elizabeth Nurse as their first female clerk. You can hear this choir during the university term time at Christmas and Easter. They also have an extensive touring and recording program as well. So yeah, do check them out as well. The cathedral's singers consist of volunteers, and they're usually in residence outside of term time when the choristers and academic clerks of the main choir are on holiday. You can hear the college choir sing 1 to 2 weeks in term time, and that's made up of current undergraduates and postgraduates from that college. The cathedral also has a choir for girls aged 7 to 14 called Fried's White Voices. This was founded back in September 2019, and the choristers are drawn from schools around Oxford, and they sing evensong once a week. So evensong's a service that's held near sunset, and it's focused on singing psalms and other biblical things. The cathedral bells, there's a ring of 12 bells hung for full circle ringing, and well, you can find out more information about the bells online as well. The church is also used for burials in the cathedral. So quite a few different people have been buried there, usually to do with like English, the Church of England, so there's like many philosophers as well. So I'm just going to show you pictures of the church. So this view is actually kind of popular. So if you are a Harry Potter fan, especially of the movies, the first film, the scene where the students are entering this is a picture, entering the dining hall to be sorted into their academic houses, they go up these stairs. So this came up in the first Harry Potter film, so that's the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone if you're in America. So they came up these stairs to enter the dining hall here. Dining hall in the university is actually used by students for for meals and stuff. So from what I've heard, this is used by both students and staff alike to have breakfast, dinner, lunch. Again, if I'm wrong, please correct me. And it's got pictures of all the masters of the college, and you can also have a look at the ceiling and all the little stained windows as well. So again, do check them out if you're interested. When I went, I didn't actually get a chance to visit all of the Christ Church College and Cathedral. Just be warned that some parts are closed even during term time and holiday time for exams that could take place. So you might not be able to get to see everything that you're intended. This is a street view of the church, and it's actually a pretty busy place to visit, but do check them out as well. If you go onto their website, so Christ Church website, you can actually choose to visit the you can find out information about all the different courses that they have in the college. If you want to visit the cathedral, just make sure that you check out the ticket prices as well. As of 2023, these are the price of March 2023. These are the prices available for the church. So you can also do like highlight tours as well of the college, depending on what your time is. Also check out the web pages for the closure time, so you know when to avoid the church when they're closed. So it might also be worth going with students who are alumni of the university, so like prospective students, or for those who have the card holders, or as well as Oxford University residents as well. Sorry, Oxford residents. So you might be able to get in there for like free if you know people who are studying there or living there. So that's something to look into. So the Christ Church is like pretty much one of the main entry points into the university. If you do actually walk through the university, let's see if I can. Okay, I don't think it's possible. You'll also get to go visit the botanical garden that's behind Christ Church College actually, and the River Thames actually walks goes by the Botanical Garden. Oh, sorry, the River Cherbourg. The tributary bridge for the for Oxford. You do also have to pay to enter, but this is the I think the university garden as well. And you'll see like lots of different plants that are used for medicinal purposes, and also plants um, for like eating purposes as well. So these are the prices as of March 2023. So adults are £6.30. I remember using my student ticket at that point, and I think I paid around £5 for it as well. So if you're a student in a university in the UK, it's worth carrying your student ID with you. For those outside of the UK, the ISIC, so the International Student ID card, is worth getting, especially if you're planning on visiting a lot of museums in the UK. Quite a few of them are you have to pay for it, so it's worth carrying that card just to save some money. So you can visit the garden at any time. It's open, so again, have a look out for opening hours as well, for both the Botanical Garden and the Arboretum. So yeah, definitely worth a visit, I would say. So as I mentioned, the university colleges are like dotted around around Oxford. So for example, near Christchurch, you also have Magdalen College, Magdalen College, right, which is here. Again, you can find out more about what the university actually, the college provides when you're there. Near Magdalen College is also St Edmund's Hall, New College, as well as Merton. I think Merton St Hilda's near there as well. So a lot of different places to visit. Next on the list I want to show you is the Ashmolean Museum. So that's, here you go, Ashmolean. So this is a museum that is, I hope, free to enter, and it's just a big, yeah, it's free to enter, and it's a big university in the middle of, or near the city centre of Oxford, and it's an archaeology and art museum, and it's the world's second university museum after the establishment of Kunstmuseum Basel in, I think, in Switzerland. Yeah. So the present building that the Ashmolean is based in was built between 1841 and 1845, and it has a variety of display of arts, and a lot of these exhibitions are permanent, but you can also see some temporary ones. Also, they got a big collection history, and as it's free to enter, it's something that you should definitely consider going as well. So we can also see like different exhibitions that are coming up. So for example, there's one on the Labyrinth of Gnosis. So that's the labyrinth that was actually popularized in the myths in the Greek mythologies, and this exhibition is open until 30th of July 2023. So do look into going as well. And I think these are these tickets you will have to book. Yeah, so £15-30 per adult ticket. So temporary tickets in the UK usually you have to pay for museums, especially the ones that are free. It's just a way for the museums to get some money as well. So yeah, definitely worth a visit if you're stuck for ideas to do in the Ashmolean. Let me just do a street view so you can see what the museum looks like from street view. So the main entrance is actually up these stairs, and that's what it looks like. And this, I believe, is also the Oxford Playhouse, which is out here. So the architecture of Oxford is actually pretty majestic just by itself. So that's, oh, apparently they're public toilets. This is a spire. I'm not quite sure what this spire is. Actually, let me see what it is. It's the Martyrs Memorial, and it was built, I think, in the Victorian times to commemorate martyrs who died, I suppose, for Oxford. So yeah, definitely nice area to be in. So this whole area itself is actually quite well developed and very well situated. So you can, either walk around or possibly even get the hop off bus. These are buses, tourist buses that allow you to travel around the city without having to walk. And they do a lot of like tickets depending on what you want to pay for. So for example, if you're a student, you can get like cheaper discount than if you're a non-student. So again, it's definitely worth getting the student discounts. So another place I want to mention, now we're kind of going backwards, is the Oxford Castle and Prison. So it's a large, partly ruined medieval castle, and at one point, so most of the original wooden Motte and Bailey castle was actually replaced by stone in the late 12th century or 13th century. So this is the castle and the stone built aspect of the castle, and it played an important role in the conflict of the anarchy that I mentioned earlier in the video. The military value reduced actually in the 14th century, and the castle was primarily used for a county administration and as a prison as well. Most of the castle was actually, destroyed in the English Civil War, and by 18th century, a lot of the remaining buildings were actually became Oxford local prison. So yeah, so well worth the visit if you have a chance. I didn't actually get a chance to go to this prison. I think you can. Yes, looks like you can experience the castle as well, and prison. So definitely worth booking your visit as well if you're interested in the castle. So yeah. Next on the list, back into the center of town again, is just past the town, is the Oxford University Museum of Natural History. So this is the museum website. It is also free to visit, as far as I'm aware. And it's actually a pretty cool museum as well. And you can see a lot of things that they have inside there. So again, it's a natural history museum, so a lot of specimens of like animals, from prehistoric times to now. It is actually a really big museum, and very in terms of architecture also is a very delightful place to be. So as it's free, it's definitely worth a visit to go see this place as well. Inside the Natural History Museum is the Pitt Rivers Museum. Let me just see if I can actually find. Yeah, it's this is what it looks like inside the Pitt Rivers Museum. At one point in time, this Pitt Rivers Museum actually had shrunken human heads, but I believe these have now been taken out. But these have like different displays of a lot of historical artifacts from across the world. And it's on quite a different floors as well. So again, skulls and things like that from different parts of history. And it's on different floors, so do check them out. And this is also free entry, I believe. I think it's an anthropological type museum. And you can actually like look at all the different collections that they have. So yeah, archaeological and ethnographic objects from different parts of the world. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, again, free to enter, so do check it out. Let me just show you what the street view around the museum looks like. So I believe this is Cable College, so one of the colleges of Oxford. Let me see if I can actually get it the wrong way. Let's see if I can actually get better view of the museum. Aha, yes. So this is what the museum looks like from the outside. So you'll have to actually enter from one of the side entrances from the main road, which is there. And this is what it looks like. And Pitt Rivers is inside this Oxford Museum. So yeah, so that's just a bit about Oxford. There are other things to Oxford than just the museums, obviously. If you get on the Oxford hop on hop off bus, it'll actually take you to quite a lot of different colleges, as well as the parks, and they will explain more about the history as well. You can get on the buses that have the spoken tour guide, so the live tour guide, sorry. And they'll be able to mention you many different places as well. One last thing before we break up, I would like to talk a bit about the Bodleian Library. So this is part of what the library looks like, and this is inside. So Bodleian Library is the main research library of Oxford, and it's one of the oldest libraries in Europe. And it has over 13 million printed items, and the name is derived from the founder, Sir Thomas Bodleian. Because it has so many books, dedicated to the library, they can't store everything in the library, so a lot of it's actually also underground. That is what I've heard. So yeah, so you don't see all of the books on display when you do go to visit. So I believe admission to the library included an oral oath that new readers were required to agree to formal declaration, but now it's by signing a letter to similar effect. And I think it's just to like make sure that the people treat the books very well. So I think what you see here is actually the circular building is I think it's the Radcliffe camera. Apparently means room in Latin. The camera, and it's like one of the focal point of the University of Oxford. And it was funded from the estate of John Radcliffe, who left a physician who left £40,000 upon his death to the university in 1714. Um, it's because I believe the doctor actually attended the university. So that's why the circle building is there. You cannot actually go into that building, unfortunately. Though it is actually really nice. So this is part of the library as well. So yeah, so lots of building in very similar architectural delights, but it's still worth visiting and just going for like a brisk walk. There is the Radcliffe camera. So a very popular point, as you can see, from all the tourists around as well. Can I actually go into here? No, that's so you go through here to get to the university. Let's see if I can actually get some some view into the square of the. Okay, so when you enter into the library, this is the main square that you see, and you can enter as well these rooms when it's open. But you can't always see much if you're if it's during term time, because obviously it'll be closed for students to use. So yeah, so that's all I have to say about Oxford, the city. I'm sorry I couldn't show you all the colleges, but this video is now getting to nearly 1 hour, and I am pretty known for making them pretty long. But do check out Oxford when you're there. There's quite a few different places you can stay when you're there. In Oxford, for example, Premier Inn here. There's also a travel lodge somewhere also not far from here, from Oxford, yeah, on Abington Road, so you can actually like walk if you wanted to into university areas, especially since in the summer when the weather's a lot good, because car parking might be a bit difficult. There's also the main Oxford station if you're planning on taking the train in, but yeah. Other than that, I hope you found this video fascinating. All of the information that I've mentioned online, I will add the link to, so you can check out the attractions in your own time. Thank you for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on my channel, because it would mean a lot, especially since I've been getting a lot of views now. Thank you, and I'll see you next time for another episode. Goodbye.